is on throughput accounting. So we're going to do tonight the syllabus. So I won't discuss this, okay? So we go straight to question 3. Now they say prepare on a relevant cost basis the lowest cost estimate that you can use it as a quotation. You know, when they do relevant cost, it's always minimum pricing, okay? Now briefly explain your reason why you include or exclude certain figure. Now, so it's a bit of calculation, a bit of theory, okay? So 10 marks. Okay. The High Life Company, HL, makes sofa. It has recently received a request from a customer to provide one-off order of sofa in excess of normal budgeted production. The order would need to be completed within 2 weeks, and the following cost estimate has already been prepared. Okay, so they give you the estimate now. Materials will be fabric. They need 200 square meter and the wood 50 meter. Labor, they need skilled, semi-skilled. Then they got factory overhead. The admin overhead is 10% of total production cost. Now, you know, as usual in relevant costs, you must read to decide what's relevant and what's not relevant. Okay? Now, so we will need the note. Okay. HL code. Minimum price estimate. Okay, first one, note. Now it says the fabric is regularly used by HL. Currently, there are 300 square meter in the inventory, which costs $70 per square meter. The current purchase price of the fabric is 17.5 per square meter. Now, how many square meters you need? 200. And how many square meters you have? 300. You already have enough, right? Oh. But the question states on a point that they say is something that is regularly used. So when something is regularly used, what do you do after you use it? You must replace or you must buy back. Now that means the relevant cost is the replacement cost. Fabric 200 times 17.5. That's it. Now I'll write down the explanation later. Okay. This type of wood is regularly used by HL and they usually cost 8.2. So also regularly used. However, the company's current suppliers delivery time for the wood is 3 weeks time. An alternative supplier could deliver immediately, but they would charge 8.5 per square meter. Now HL Co already has 500 square meter in the inventory, but 480 of this is needed to complete the other existing order in the next 2 weeks. the remaining 20 is not going to be needed until 4 weeks time. Okay, you work it out for me. Now, you need 50 meter, right? Okay. So the question now is for the 50 meters, you have 20. Now these 20, you do not need them until 4 weeks time. So if you do not need them until 4 weeks time, then you can actually use first. Then you order, and the fastest delivery is 3 weeks, 3 weeks come back, no problem, right? But now the other 30 is going to be a problem. Because the other 30, they say, you will actually have no time already because you need this for the present project. So if you have no time to wait, then you must use the alternative, right? That the charge is higher. So that's all I need. So for the wood 20 meter, you can wait for the normal one at 8.2. The 30 meter, you must use the alternative at 8.5. Okay, go on. Note 3. The skilled labor force is employed under permanent contract, under which they must be paid for 40 hours a week, even if their time is idle because of no order. Now that means this 40 hour is committed. Okay. The rate is at $16 per hour, although any overtime is paid at time and a half. And in the next 2 weeks, there is a spare capacity of 150 hours. Okay, so how many hours you need for this project? 200. That means the spare capacity got what cost to you? No cost. Committed already, correct? Now, this is what happened to your skill. 150 hours spare capacity, the cost is nil. Okay, then another 50 hours, that one you must take overtime, right? Now the overtime is charged at time and a half. So the rate now is 16. So time and a half is 1.5 times 50, it will cost you 1,002. Note 4. Okay. There is no spare capacity for semi-skilled worker. They are currently paid 12 an hour or time and a half for overtime. However, there's a local agency that can provide you extra at $14. Now you think and see. If you take your own worker and do overtime, how much do you pay? 12 plus time and a half is 18. Agency say I got extra hour if you want, 14. I mean, if you're a businessman, which one you go for? 14, right? So that's why in that case, for the semi-skilled, we will take 300 hours times 14. So it will be 4,002. Okay, note 5. Factory overhead. Now they say the $3 absorption is the company standard factory overhead absorption rate, which is at 1.5 per hour, reflects the cost of the factory supervisor salary, and the other 1.5 per hour reflects the general factory cost. Now the supervisor is paid an annual salary and is also paid $15 for any overtime he works. He will need to work 20 hours of overtime if the order is accepted. Now in this case, the general overhead is irrelevant, right? Because whether you take it or not, you find that the absorption is just a paper cost only. Alright, now what is important is, if you take this job, what is the extra amount you're going to pay? Anything special extra you're going to pay is just the supervisor overtime, which is 20 hour at $15. I mean, that's the only extra thing you're going to pay. Other than that, what else you pay? So that's why in this case, for the factory overhead, you are looking at the supervisor's overtime, which is 20 times 15, so 300. Okay, right, the last figure is, they say, note 6. This is an apportionment of a general overhead. Will that be relevant? No. So note 6, the general overhead is nil. Okay. Now you must put in the notes to explain. Okay, note 1. Now, fabric is regularly used. So, the stock shall be replaced once used in this order. So the replacement cost is relevant cost. Okay, note 2. Okay, it says that this is the wood, right? Now, so you explain why you do like that. Now, the 20 meter of extra wood, we can use first and replace it with a subsequent delivery in 3 weeks time. So the cost would be at 8.2 per meter. Okay, so actually examiner made a mistake in the question. You all got notice or not? The wood is 50 meter, but the cost is 8.2 per square meter. But it's okay lah. I mean, obviously you should know it's a mistake, okay? Because a lot of square, so she also very confused. Okay. Now, however, the balance 30 meter must be obtained from the alternative supplier, since existing stock is all reserved for other project, but it's at a higher price of 8.5 per meter. Okay, now number 3, the skilled labor is employed on the permanent workforce, so the only incremental now is the overtime. Okay, now since spare capacity would not result in incremental cost, it has no relevant cost. The only relevant cost would be the incremental cost for the 50 hours where the skilled labor would work overtime and be paid at 24 per hour. Okay. Okay, for note 4, right? Now you just have to explain the comparison of the two. Okay, now For the semi-skilled worker, working OT would cost 18 per hour, while the agency worker would cost only 14. So the agency worker is preferred because it's cheaper. Okay. Now the next one is the absorption. Okay. Now the absorption of overhead is irrelevant as these are not actual cash flow. Okay. Now, so only the incremental costs on supervisors overtime pay would be relevant. Okay, last one. So, again, overhead absorption is irrelevant as it does not involve actual cash flow. Now, so the number aspects of the questions is not hard. Okay. So if you ask me honestly, I think you will write. The writing part will be something that you probably find it more difficult. Okay, but the numbers are straightforward. Okay, if I go to question 5 and look at another number. Now, so this is a 15 marks questions the examiner asked in December 14. It's mix and yield. So probably the next round might be planning operational, but I cannot confirm. But usually you see she take turns. So if this is mix and yield, maybe the coming exam is planning operational, or maybe it's mix and yield but not material, maybe sales, sales mix and sales quantity. Okay, see question 5. The required in part A. Calculate the total material mix variant and the total material yield variant. So you must have a total there. Okay, you must have a total there. Okay. The Safe Soap Company makes environmentally friendly soap using 3 basic ingredients. The standard cost card for one batch of soap will be material. They got lime, I don't know what is lime, coconut oil, and shea butter. So they give you the quantity, the price per kilo. Okay, so one batch of soap will need so many kilo. The budget for production and sales in September was 120,000 batches, and the actual production and sales were 136,000 batches. Now the actual ingredient used were as follows. Now these are the ingredients. Now you know when you want to do mix and yield, you just need the table and fill in the blank. So it's 8 marks. I think it's a very pretty straightforward question here that you can score very well. Okay. Question 5. Now remember the formula. You have to write down all the material: lye, coconut oil, shea butter, total 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we did this last class also. What's the formula? Start with what? QM. Yes, QM, and we take standard, actual. Then up, then down. Yes, up, then down. AQ, SM, standard price. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, try this. Fill in the blank. Okay. The first is the actual quantity, actual mix. The one you just use the actual. So it's 34,080, 83,282, 64,200. Okay, then this goes up, actual quantity goes up. Okay, you have to then take this spread over the standard mix. Now the standard mix is said to be 0.25, 0.6, 0.5. That means it's out of 1.35. So this is your standard mix. So you take this proportion over 1.35 times 181512. Now you'll be getting 33,613. Then it will be 8067. Okay, 672. Correct? Then the last figure must be a rounding figure, so we minus out 67227. Now what is your SQ? Now SQ is very simple. You ask yourself, if I use 1.25 to make one batch, and now how many batches you make? Yes, 136,000. Then how many kilo do I need? Well, this is very simple, so there's no loss problem. Okay? Because normally you will find it more difficult if they say 1.25 kilo will get you 1.1 kilo. Then the actual output is 100,000 kilo. Then you must work backward with losses. This is so straightforward. Just take 136 times 1.25. So 136 times 1.25 is 100 and? 1.35. Sorry Wow, so fierce man, 很凶哦 so fierce 吓死人Thank you 这么凶吓到我了 183,600. Okay, then divide back with the quantity 34, 81,006 and 68. Simple Now then you just take the difference and multiply. So 34,000 minus 33,613 times 10, 3870. Now this is your what variant? Yield variant. So 3870 favorable. Okay, then 816 minus 80672 times 4, 3712 favorable. Then 68,000, 67,227 times 3, 2319 favorable. Now you see the yield variant I've told you, if one is favorable, everything is favorable because the yield is together one. Okay, so your total yield variant is 9909. Sorry. Okay. Now then your mix variant will be 33613 Now, times 10. So we have 4670 is negative, so it's adverse. Now you can see you use more of lye than the standard, so the actual usage is more. That's why it's adverse. Now in terms of the coconut oil, again is adverse as well. But in terms of the shea butter, is favorable. Now the total net variance is favorable, so adverse more than favorable, so it's 5829 adverse. Now usually for yield variance you can look at total, okay? But for mixed variance we don't look at total. Total mixed variance cannot see anything, because you must see which one you change the mix, whether it's more or whether it's less. Okay, now so that's the part here that we have for question 5. Okay, now the second part they ask you B. Go to B. Now it says that briefly explain what the adverse mix and favorable yield indicate about the production at Safe Soap Company in October. You do not need to discuss the revision of standard or operational and planning variances. Now, so you just got to tell the examiner what do you mean by mix become adverse, favorable for yield. What does it mean? Okay. Now I think this one I can even straight away answer without reading. Okay. What do you mean by adverse mix? You change the ingredient, that you change the mixture. And obviously when the mix is adverse means the more expensive one you use more, right? Okay. That's why when the more expensive one you use more, the less expensive one you use less. So eventually you start to see that the mix become adverse. But when they say favorable yield, why will there be a favorable yield? You've got more. Last time I used, let's say 1.35 kilo, I get one batch of soup. Now I only need 1.25 kilo, I get the same one batch. So I use less, so the loss is lesser. Now that's what you're going to say. Now then in number 2 they say, discuss whether the sales manager could be justified in claiming that the change in material mix has caused an adverse sales volume variance. Now we read the story and see what is that. Okay, in October, material mix and yield variance shows that mix is 6,000 adverse, yield is 10,000 favorable. Now the production manager is pleased with the result, stating that at the beginning of September, I have made some changes to the mix of the ingredient for the soap. As I expected, the mix is adverse in both months because we haven't updated our standard cost card. But favorable yield variance more than makes up for this. Okay, that means you get more favorable, which is enough to cover the adverse mix. Now overall, I think we can be satisfied that the changes made to the product mix are producing good results, and now we are able to make more batches to meet the growing demand of the product. Now the sales manager, however, hold a very different view and say, I'm not very happy with the change in the ingredient mix. I've explained to the board why sales volume variance for October was 22 adverse. That means they sell lesser. But I've tried to explain that I have had to explain, that means you have not explained to the board yet. Okay, I've tried to explain that the quality of the soap has declined slightly, and that some of my customers have realized this and simply unhappy, but no one seems to be listening. Some customers are even demanding that the price of the soap be reduced and threatening to go elsewhere if problems isn't sorted out. Okay, now so that's what they say over here. Now, so part B, number 1, what is adverse mixed variant? Now, mixed variant occur when the actual mixture for ingredient differ from the standard mixture. Now, the adverse mixed variant indicate, the first line I only tell you what is a mixed variant, then I talk about what is adverse mixed variant. So the adverse mixed variant indicate that more expensive ingredient is used while the cheaper ingredient has been cut. Okay? Now that's it. So that is adverse mixed variant. Now what about yield variant? Now yield measures whether more or less material input has been used. So if a favorable yield, it indicated less material was input for the given output. Thus, lower loss is seen. Now, so overall, we can say that the soap company has changed its input mixture but resulted in more output being achieved. Okay, now, so do you think the sales manager could justify in claiming that the material mix has caused an adverse sales volume variance in October. Now, so I'm asking you now that, can you blame is because of the change in the mix? Can you say that? Now, you of course cannot straight away conclude, because it's just 1 month only. That's why the answer will have to say, in a way, maybe lah. But you got to wait until you get more investigation, like you've got a feedback from customer. Okay, so although the sales manager did say some of the customer has complained, okay, now so in a way that I would agree with him. But maybe the drop can be due to other reasons. Maybe because of the season, maybe because the sales manager did not push enough, you know. So you cannot blame everything on the change of the mix yet, but apparently it should be that problem. Okay, so we got to highlight that in the answer. Now, it is difficult to assess the cause of the adverse sales volume variance by assessing just variance for October. Now, sales volume could be implicated by many factors. Example, like maybe your sales trend, okay? Maybe it's the season, like winter people don't take bath one, you know, the Kuai very scary. 1 year take bath can count by finger. 1 whole month don't take bath one. Winter, how to take bath to them is they say they don't sweat, they don't bath. Okay, 1 whole month don't bath one. Alright, you cannot. I know you cannot. You how to tahan, but their culture is like that. Okay, so people don't bath, then why buy soap? You tell me buy soap for what? So you don't use soap. Okay, so it could be all these reasons. So it could be sales trend. That it could be a seasonal variation, or it could be due to poor sales strategy that could not necessarily be due to the change in the product mix. Okay, now however, it is more apparent that the production mix is the cause. Now, the new mixture was introduced in September, so it is likely that customers have tried and be aware of the change. Okay, now in that case, it is justified to say that the sales mix has caused drop in volume. Okay, now in fact, the sales manager also receive complaint from customer on the change in quality and pressuring for drop in the selling price. Okay. Now look at question 4. Now this is probably the scariest question of the whole set lah. Because you know when students look at question, wow, all words one, no number one, wow, they get very scared. Okay. Now it's not a very tough question because what you need for the answers are very little. Okay. So the 15 marks they say, okay, for describe each of the 4 perspectives of balance scorecard. Now balance scorecard got 4 perspectives. Which 4 again? Which is financial, yes. Financial is the last lah. We always look at money as the last. So we say before you get money, the first thing you must have is what? You think from the logical flow. The first thing you must have is, that's the middle, the first thing. Internal business is the way you do things. Before you can do things, you must have what? You must have knowledge. You must have knowledge. Knowledge is learning. It's learning and growth that give you the knowledge. When you have the knowledge, you apply what you learn into the way you do things. That's why your internal business processes will improve. Now, of course, besides improving the internal business processes, you also improve the way how you satisfy your customer. That's why you will have such customer's perspective. So this is usually how we look at it. Learning and growth will bring you to internal business and customer, because when you improve your business processes, you also at the same time make your customer happier. So that's why it will be interconnected. And obviously when your processes improve, you have cost saving, and when your customers are happy, you improve the revenue, so eventually it comes to profit. Okay, now so I just discussed the point with you. You read the answers. Okay, now so the main thing is you have to write down the category. That means part A, you must talk about what is learning and growth, internal business processes, customers, and financial. But by just listing down heading, you don't expect you get 6 marks. Okay, you know you must write something to the heading. So when you write something to the heading, you explain that this is what, this is what, this is what, this is what. Okay. Now, so what do you mean by profit? Profit is how we generate value to shareholder. Customer is how customer should see us. How do you want the customer look at you and see you? How do you want to appear to the customer? So there must be an impression or a reputation. Now internal process, business processes basically are asking you that what are those things you do, the things we do that we need to accept. So what are those things that we are doing that we need to make sure we are good? And learning is how we make sure we can continue, because we need to improve, ma. So how we make sure that we can continue to improve and you create value. Okay? Now that will be the 4 things. So you write down the heading and you use all the keywords. You should be quite safe in part A. Now we're going to do part B. So for that we're going to read the case study now. Right, it says that Gem Air was founded in September 2007. Is one of the growing number of low-cost airlines in the country of Oceania. Gem Air's strategy is operate as a low-cost, high-efficiency airline, and it does it by operating mostly in secondary city to reduce landing costs. Because you see, like a lot of airport got a lot of city got a few airport. Okay, London got a few airport. Okay, like you find that, for example, you go to Japan, got a few airport. Like even in Tokyo itself, they got a couple of airports. Now main airports are obviously more expensive. You see, like Malaysia, KL also got two, KLIA, KLIA2. Okay, so the cheaper airport usually is the low cost that they don't charge so high. So they are using this out of landing. Okay, now they use one type of aircraft so that they can cut maintenance and operational costs. And these planes are leased than you buy outright. This looks exactly like AirAsia's strategy at that time. Okay. Now, having only one category of seat and no pre-allocated seat and no in-flight entertainment, and focus on e-commerce with customer booking the ticket, checking in flights online. Now, that was a strategy. The airline was given an on-time arrival ranking of the 7th best by the country's aviation authority, who ranked all of the 50 countries' airlines based on the number of flights which arrive on time at their destination. 48 Gem Air flights were cancelled in 2013 compared with 35 in 2012. This increase was due to increase in the staff absentee rate at Gem Air from 3 days per staff to 4.5 days. Now the average ground turnaround time for airline in Oceania is 50 minutes. Now that means on average the planes are on the ground for cleaning, refueling, etc. for 50 minutes before departing again. Customer satisfaction survey have showed that 85% of the customers are happy with the standard of the cleanliness of Gem Air's plane. Now the number of passengers carried by the airline has grown from 300 passengers on a total of 3428 flights in 2007 to 920,000 passengers in 7650 flights in 2013. Now the overall growth of the airline has been helped by the limited route licensing policy by the Oceanian government, which has given Gem Air almost monopoly status on some of the route. However, the government is now set to change this policy with almost immediate effect and has become more important than ever to monitor performance effectively. So now what we're going to do is part B. For each of the perspective of balanced scorecard, right, identify one goal together with a corresponding performance measure, which can be used by Gem Air to measure the company's performance. Now the goal and the measure should be specifically relevant to Gem Air and for each pair of goals and measure you must explain why you have chosen them. Okay, now they just need one each only, so it's very simple. Okay, we can start with financial perspective. See, financial is about money. Alright, financial is about money. So if financial is about money, your goals can measure any form of financial, like for example, maybe your asset turnover, your profit margin. Alright, so all these are examples of things that you want, your sales growth, up to you, okay? Now, so maybe my goals here is my profit margin. So I can calculate my gross profit and net profit margin. Now basically explain. We need to maintain a good profitability to ensure the business of the airline can generate value to shareholder. So profit margins tell how well Gem Air manage its overhead. Okay, that's it. Done already. Simple, right? Now then you go into the next perspective. Now we are looking at internal business processes. So what do I have in my internal business processes? Now you can talk about the turnaround time, because the questions mention about the turnaround time. You can talk about, for example, your checking in, because they focus on e-commerce with customer that they check in, so you don't want so many people to go to the counter, so you can focus on that. That's why AirAsia introduced for a while the idea of like you go counter, they charge you $10. Of course, after that people scroll, then they decided to stop that. Okay. Now, but these are examples of what you can do. So if you think that one of the, okay, we just need one. We talk about the turnaround because questions say turnaround. Okay. Now the goal here is we want to reduce the turnaround time. Okay, now how do you look at the turnaround time? Now you can measure, like for example, the percentage of flights that departed on schedule. So if you can fly off on time, that means your turnaround time is there. Now if you don't fly off on time, then the turnaround time is not there. Okay, I don't need you to cut down the turnaround by a lot. I just want you to fly off on time. So if you turn around fast, you can fly off, then there's no delay. Okay, now basically the punctuality for flights to take off affects the punctuality of arrival. It also affects the cost and the number of flights can be accommodated in a day. So the more you turn around, the faster you turn around, the more flights you can take in a day. So it's better, okay? So it improves asset efficiency. Alright, now, so business shall aim to improve its turnaround time. So you should aim for like 100% punctuality that can make you turn around faster. Okay. Now your goals, which obviously is like customer satisfaction, okay? So is aim at how you want to make customer be satisfied with you, that they are happy with you. So what would affect satisfaction? Well, I think punctuality, flight cancellation, okay, punctuality, flight cancellation, alright. Now all this is important. Then they also given you the happiness index. There's a survey, right? How they are happy with you. Sometimes you are not punctual, also never mind, provided you're very cheap. Because we say service industry, end of the day, the way the people rank what is good service is very different one. Some people want cheap only. They don't mind you delay also. You see, that's why even there are people that even you tell them, I fly midnight, okay or not, midnight, 3 a.m. but I charge you half the price, people will still say okay. So that's why end of the day, it's how they perceive, okay? Now that's why in this case, you just choose a measure. Now I can choose measure like, for example, the cancellation of flight. Alright, now, or we can measure the happiness index, okay? The number of flights cancelled. Now, customer book air ticket and have a scheduled traveling plan. So any cancellation would cause huge distress to customer and would tarnish reputation of the airline. That's why to appear good, we must avoid flight cancellation. That's why unless I have a choice, I don't like to fly China airline, the China Southern airline or Eastern airline, Eastern Northern airline. They got many parts on it. Because every time when you book the flight, 1 week, 2 weeks before the departure, they will email me and say, sorry, we changed your flight time, change your flight date. They have all these stupid reasons. Don't know how they will want, okay? And then they ask you, can you take another flight? So always like that one. I fly a few times, every time also the same. 没有一次没有试过的 okay? So I don't like flying unless I don't have a choice. I need a flight that go to that city. So I don't like their flights. So that's their problem. But I think they don't care because their country so big. They got so many people. You don't fly, there's still people waiting. You know, that's why they don't mind. So they don't care. But one day when they start to feel the business is affected, then they probably will mind. Okay. Now the last thing here is what? Is learning and growth. Now, your goals. Now, your goals could include, like for example, the new improvements or innovation to business. Now maybe the measures could be like, for instance, now any form of new ideas or products introduced per period. Now example like maybe they say AirAsia, how they innovate. Last time start don't want to have seat because wasting time to allocate. Then people go out rush. So now they get very smart. They say since everyone know that the front seat is a better seat, why not we sell it? So they come up with a way. Okay. Now this is example of what you do. Okay. Now example we can innovate. Like maybe we can offer a premium for a better seat. Now that's an idea. Okay. They wanted to come up with food, more types of food, so that they can charge more. Okay. Last time they give you they allow you to order one food. Now they give you flexibility. You can order 2 sets, you can order 3 sets. So all these are example of new idea. Okay. Now they can also offer, like last time AirAsia, you book the ticket, you cannot change. Now they give an option called what, Flexi Flex, something like that. You pay slightly more, but you can change. So for those traveler that they still cannot confirm the date one, right? They take that one so that they can last minute change the date, then they don't have to pay extra. You see, now so these are example of how they come up with new things. Okay. Now so basically the business requires new approaches. Example, new way of managing business operation so that it continuously improve itself. So the more ideas being created can lead to better satisfaction to customer or more revenue sources. So these are example of things that you can propose over here. Okay, right, so that's the 15 marks question. So I've done almost the whole set with you, just except one question on the 10 marks which I didn't do because you've not studied that. Okay, alright, so that's a post-mortem of your December 2014. Thank you.